Hey guys, welcome back. It's your girl Toya T, and sorry for the delayed video. This is my recap and review for Being Mary Jane season 4, episode 6, Getting Home, and episode 7, Getting Judged. Now, I didn't post a video last week because I was not feeling that episode at all. I thought about making a video and I said, what is there to talk about? I'm going to make this really brief. Some of the things that stuck out to me because I didn't rewatch it, so I'm just going to go off the top of my head of things that I thought were interesting, and let's have a conversation on whether or not you thought this was interesting. So the main premise of episode 6, Getting Home, was about Mary Jane being able to travel home to Atlanta. We do know that in a previous episode she was talking about how she was homesick and she missed her father's, good Southern cooking and just, being familiar with an area and her family. And so she goes home because she has an opportunity to go cover an event for the station. And so Kara finagled it so that they would be able to go because she knew Rhonda wouldn't want to go and do this event. So it was like two birds, one stone. She gets to do this work event and get to go home. And so she goes home and her parents are like super excited to see her. She's supposed to be staying at the Four Seasons because of course the network paid for this Four Seasons room, which stupidly she gives up because her Niecy tells her that, she's still having problems with Travion. He's acting up in school. He actually bit another child and he's still having these nightmares. So Mary Jane offers to stay in the house and help with Travion. I don't know how she can help, but she's only there for a weekend. I don't know what kind of help she was going to be able to provide by staying in the house. I would have kept the Four Seasons room because one, I ain't paying for it, and two, it's the Four Seasons. And just come to the house as often as possible, stay there until, nighttime, and then go back to my hotel. And another reason why it's stupid, because as someone that lives at home with a parent, I know that you need the space. And so the fact that she came back and stayed in the house when it was for a business trip and not a family home trip, like if she came home for Thanksgiving or something, yes, stay in the house. But if you're coming here for work purposes and you need space to decompress and to actually gather your thoughts and get a good night's sleep without family drama, she should have kept it. Second of all, Lee pops up because he's the king of pop-ups. He pops up in Atlanta and underneath the guise that his agent last minute booked him a comedy gig down there, and so he decided to come and check her. The problem is that if your agent booked you a gig, he probably also would have booked you a room, or your manager would have booked you a room. And so we find out later that he asked his manager to book him a gig in Atlanta. But he showed up on Mary Jane's parents' doorstep like, I ain't got nowhere to stay, so I'm going to stay with you. And if she had kept that Four Seasons room, they could have stayed in the Four Seasons without it being awkward. But of course, it needs to be this awkward thing. And so she says that he's going to have to stay here in the house with her at her parents' house. And the parents get to finally meet Lee, which is really the reason why he decided to do this pop-up, this surprise visit, because he wanted to meet Mary Jane's family, because he's actually in an adult relationship with her and he actually wants to get to know her before they move any further. And so he took the chance to go down there and to be able to meet her family. And so he meets the parents. They seem to kind of like him. Niecy's giving him all kinds of shits, but I mean, I don't know why she was being so rude. It made no sense. She was making it seem like Mary Jane was too good for him, and she didn't even know this man. And so, of course, I mean, the whole thing, the mother is old school, and she's like, y'all are not married, and we just met you, so y'all cannot stay in the same room. Plus, Mary Jane's old room is I don't know, or which is now the guest room, has a leak in it or something. And so Mary Jane's already having to share a room with Travion in the bunk beds. So she's sleeping on the bottom bunk. And Lee is sleeping in the living room on the couch. And so it gets kind of interesting because of the fact, and again, this is not what I expect from being Mary Jane in season 4. So they have the whole hijinks of, him and Mary Jane are texting, and he's like, I'm horny and I'm hard, and she's like, I'm coming downstairs. And of course, the mother walks in on Lee butt ass naked with a heart on, and so it becomes this embarrassing situation. But it's like, ha ha ha, hijink comedy moment. But we just didn't need that. Like, there's plenty of other obstacles that could have come up, or non-obstacles, because it became a non-obstacle about this situation. But anyway, so Mary Jane, they can't sleep in the same bed. Also, Lee seems to make some leeway with Niecy, because she trying to act like, well, you never understand my problems. Like, my son is acting out at school, and he's like, I have 2 children, so I don't know why you acting like I don't know stuff and I can't give you advice. And so he advised her on how to deal with the school, because the school wanted to suspend him or expel him or suspend him for this biting situation. And then we find out that, he's like a 5-year-old. So we find out that there's other kids that have the same issues, but because they're rich and they're white, they get a slap on the wrist, and Travion is getting kicked out, and is being threatened to be kicked out. And Mary Jane brings in the very real, very current, research on how black and white children are actually punished at a different rate, that they could do the same. They can exhibit the same behavior, but the black kids receive a harsher punishment. They tend to be suspended and expelled at a higher rate than white children, who end up getting lesser sentences. Lesser punishments. And so she brings in that whole thing, and I'm just like, okay, okay, great, thank you for bringing in this information. But again, if we're going to talk about Niecy and his son, they should have brought it up should have just brought it up earlier, not in this fake, like, you don't understand me, I hate you, Lee, and now me and Lee are cool because he understands what's going on. So Lee puts out this tweet for her that says the same thing, that and she's like, oh, he's cool, he sent out this tweet that's getting retweeted and everyone's talking about it. But it's like, I don't see how that would ever go viral, because it's not something that I think is uncommon, and that wouldn't have been said before. And so whatever. But her problem with him gets resolved. Mary Jane's mother, she's probably part of the reason why Mary Jane rushes into things. She's convincing Mary Jane that this dude came down there to propose. And of course, it just turned out that he wanted to meet the family, because he understands that before you can move into a serious step of a relationship like marriage, like moving in, having children, that you should meet each other's family and get to know each other. It's not, okay, I'm going to meet them after the fact, because family issues can cause a very serious problem in relationships. So again, applaud. I still think he's too good for her. But anyway, on the work end of it, Mary Jane is interviewing all of these different real life and fictional political leaders at this event that's honoring Thurgood Marshall and his legacy. And so she comes across this judge that that is supposed to be up for a Supreme Court nomination, and no one can get him to do an interview. And so Mary Jane, meeting up with her old Atlanta, black newscasting, other folks, are competing to see who can do it. And of course, they bring in this Vlad guy that is a, anchor of the nightly news at another station in Atlanta, and how, he has always been competing with Mary Jane. And he actually does make a sly comment to Lee about how, Mary Jane doesn't date, no one but ballers, and she's stuck up, and she uses people she uses high-powered men to get what she wants, and then she moves on. And I was like, what is the point of this? Like, why do you care what's going on in her relationship? And obviously you tried to hit and she said no, or you had a one-night stand. But he was being really inappropriate, and Lee ended up punching him in the face, which I appreciated. But I just don't see, I mean, I know there are guys that are high-powered, that are successful, that are complete misogynists and just disgusting people in general, but I just didn't see. He just went from being someone who was like a colleague and with friendly competitive banter to being this disgusting guy that was like, yeah, Mary Jane, I would have gotten that interview with the judge if I had tits and an ass like yours, and making like really disgusting like things at her. So I was like, okay, whatever. So that's the end of that episode. And also on top of that, Cara, I mean, I love Cara, but they had a whole side story about how her eldest son is having sex, and she tries to give him condoms in public. And he's like, Mom, this is embarrassing. 1, 2, I know what condoms are, and 3, you should be more worried about you fucking Orlando. Because he's like, I know you having sex with him. I'm not stupid. Like, duh. And so that was just so unnecessary. So anyway, we move on to episode 7, which happened this week, which is getting judged. And so this is the actual culmination of Mary Jane's work from the previous episode on getting the Supreme Court nominee judge on the show and interviewing him. And she's working with Justin because that's who Garrett posed her with. He's her producer. And so Garrett has been testing her on different questions, making sure they did their research, and making sure that she's fully prepared for this interview. And everything in their interaction shows me that Mary Jane's feelings and prejudgments and prejudices against Justin are completely just fabricated. Again, she is a flawed narrator because she's telling us that he's trying to destroy her, and he hates her, and he is so anti-Mary Jane. And all I've seen is that he's someone who is very professional. He's maybe more straightforward and blunt, but he seems to be really about his business. And everything that she said about him has turned out to be false. So her saying, oh, well, he probably dates white girls, when we find out that he's dating a dark-skinned woman. He did this to sabotage me. And then you find out in this that he really is like seeing this judge opportunity as a way to, for both of their careers to advance, not just his own, and that he is vetting and helping Mary Jane practice her interview questions and working on her mannerisms her interviewing style, so that she can move out of this correspondent position that she's in and eventually become an anchor. He's pointing out to her and giving her actual constructive criticism on ways for her to improve and develop as a professional. And so during this whole process, he does have a source that tells him that the judge has done some things where he has put some innocent black people in jail to further his career so he can have this high conviction rate. And so he tells Mary Jane that she should, since this interview is live, that she should, ask him about these questions and really eviscerate him. Like, this guy can't go on and become a Supreme Court justice, which is a job for life, if he is someone that is undercover racist, or someone who has no problems, building a career on the unjustified incarceration of black people. And so he is telling her to do this. She was reluctant, and she agrees to eventually get into this with him and to work on this. So they're working on ways to get the questions in without like setting him off, so that they can ease him into it and then just bring some doubt into people's mind before he gets before his review goes before Congress. And so that's what they're working on together, which it's nice to see them in a good working relationship. And he's always just pointing out, like, this is how we do it. And the interview comes along, and Mary Jane really does get him on the ropes. And his wife is the one, who's an attorney general, is the one that tries to stop the interview, because she sees, obviously she must know her husband is a racist, and she must be a racist too, and she must know about these numbers, because she she is automatically like, we need to stop this interview right now. And so she's telling Garrett is trying to get Mary Jane to stop. And Justin is actually giving Mary Jane encouragement, saying, you're doing really great. Yeah, you got him. Just go on next. Like, he's like, you're doing great. You're doing great. And so they ended up, cutting to commercial. And the wife is furious and she's threatening to leave. And then this is where Rhonda, of course, swoops in and takes this important interview and says, well, we'll continue, but Rhonda will be there with you. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's so ridiculous. And before that, they had the whole storyline about how the upper executives of the network actually leaked a story to this TMZ version that they have called TZZ or something like that, of the rivalry between Rhonda and Mary Jane, and that Mary Jane is this young upstart that's trying to get Rhonda's spot and is saying, I'll do anything that I need to do to get what I want. And it's like all fabricated, but they did this to drum up ratings. And so Mary Jane she doesn't want this image out about her, and she tried to figure out a way to to dispel this image, and Rhonda just was not with it. So obviously she has we all know she has ulterior motives. Like, Rhonda didn't get to her job, kissing babies and being this great humanitarian and being nice to people. Like, she brought Justin in to fuck with Mary Jane, and she's still finding ways to step on Mary Jane and keep her spot as the anchor. And so she takes the opportunity to take over the interview, which ends up being an interview with the judge and his wife. And it goes from asking him hard-hitting questions about his career as a judge, as a prosecutor, as, just his criminal record, his conviction rate, to being about, vacation homes and kids and best, like stuff like that. So it turns up this fluff piece. And at the end, Garrett ends up taking the story away from Justin and Mary Jane and giving it to Rhonda and Cara as the producer to take over. But of course, they realize that there seems to be maybe some kind of truth to what Mary Jane was trying to get the judge to admit, because why else would the wife get so upset? And so they tell Justin that he needs to give up his source, and he refuses to. He's like, I'm a journalist. I promised my source that I would keep it anonymous and I wouldn't reveal it. And so Garrett actually threatens to put Mary Jane and Justin on indefinite leave suspension if he does not reveal his source. And of course, Mary Jane can't give it up because he never told her. And so we'll see how that works out, but it's nice to see that she has his back and he actually has her back. She thought that he was trying to throw her under the bus, but he was like, no, this is important. I think you did a great job, and this just comes with the territory. All these things that have come out that people don't want to talk about, like the lead water in Michigan, in Flint, Michigan, and other, police brutality, and in Ferguson and all these other places, that came from journalists doing their jobs and people putting the information out there even when people didn't want them to. So that is one storyline. We'll see how that is. I think that Mary Jane is finally going to see that Justin is not trying to fuck her over, and they'll actually have like a real good working relationship. And I think they're also going to end up in bed, because I told you they have some kind of underlying sexual tension. On the second storyline that it was on the show was, well, there's three storylines, but the second major storyline, was Mary Jane finally meeting Lee's children. They come over from England, and the little girl, they're like teenagers. And so the little girl's asking Mary Jane all these inappropriate questions, like, how rich are you? And like, why don't you have kids and all this other stuff? Just like a typical 12-year-old or something, 12, 13-year-old. And so Mary Jane is like, okay, whatever. And Lee's like, just ignore her. Stop being rude, child. And the son is like enamored with her. And even to the point that they all went to the pool, and Mary Jane went back upstairs to go get the daughter some juice, and she finds the Lee's son is in her bathroom freaking masturbating to her lingerie. And so she catches him, he's embarrassed, and Lee notices tension between them, and she tells Lee about it, and he's like, don't worry about it, I'll talk to him, but it's not that serious. He's a teenage boy that would wank off, to a picture of no, sorry, that's disgusting. He would wank off to, the picture of Barbara Walters or something. Like a doorknob would make him, would arouse him and make him want to masturbate. So don't take it too seriously. Once they see you more as a mom figure, he sees you more as a mom figure and not just this celebrity that's on television. He won't be having that feelings towards you. So that gets resolved. But she finally does get to meet his kids. They seem to really like her. She gets to give him the American experience of having pizza and going to a diner that has a jukebox. And they really seem to like her, and she likes the kids. And it seems like that part of it, their relationship is going good. For the third storyline, which was a smaller one, was one with PJ, which I love that he's now a main character on this show. He is dealing with that his mentor's daughter, the little sticky fingers thought. Now, she kind of reminds me in general of like a Kylie Jenner, or one of these like super rich white girls that have never had to work for anything because they're rich. They've always gotten what they wanted, and so stealing means nothing to her and whatever. But the main thing is that she's really trying to get at PJ, and PJ hopefully will not fall for the bait, because this is the kind of child that if the mother finds out that he's had sex with her, or he rebuffs her in a way that hurts her feelings, that she may go and make accusations against PJ, and he can end up in serious trouble, legal trouble and financial trouble, because he'll lose this mentor. But the girl tries to say that she's nervous about this internship at the network and people aren't fawning over her. And he was like, well, it's about hard work. And he's trying to give her advice on how to work an internship into a job and showing your worth. And so that was a good thing there. But also we see that PJ runs into this girl that he had a crush on from college, while he's at a bar with some friends, and he goes up and talks to her, and he find out she's an actress, and they make plans to meet up the next day, and he offered to buy her like 2 bottles of Dom Perignon, and he's really trying to get at her. And the freaking sticky fingers thought, because I don't remember her name, shows up at the bar. She's old enough to. She's 22. She shows up in the bar with PJ's roommate, and really tries to cock block. She's like, "Hi, who are you? Are you dating PJ? Are you dating him?" And the girl's like, "Okay, we are friends from college. Get out my business." But the little sticky fingers thought tries to act like she's trying to be a good win-win, and she says PJ should take the girl back to his house and back to her apartment, to her mom's apartment. And if he's really trying to impress her, and she'll sleep someplace else. And so PJ takes her up on the offer, which is stupid. I mean, if the girl's gonna like you and she's gonna date you, you should have brought her to your apartment. Boom. You don't want to say, "Oh, I took you to my boss's or my mentor's apartment, but this is where I really live." And so he did. He has sex with her. He wakes up the next morning, and she's gone because she has to go to audition, but he finds that his Rolex that his mentor gave him is missing, and so he automatically assumes that the girl took it, which is so fucked up. My first thought was that freaking sticky fingers thought took it, because if she stole a bottle of liquor out of a major executive's office without thinking it would be a problem, why wouldn't she take PJ's Rolex? And she has a key to the office. It's not like she's stealing for need. She's stealing because she's a bored white girl that's rich and has never been told no. And so PJ confronts that girl, and she's like, "No, I didn't take it." And he realizes that Sticky Fingers thought took his Rolex. The girl that he was trying to get at, rightly leaves and curses him out, and he realizes he fucked up. That's over. And he confronts Sticky Fingers thought, and she gives him back the Rolex, and she's like, "Well, I know guys like you. You're well-to-do. You're doing well. You're successful, and you don't stay with one girl at one time, and you're always going to replace the girls you're dating with someone younger and prettier. So why don't you just cut to the chase and just get to it?" And she's trying to make a move on it. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, PJ, please stay away from that freaking young ass white sticky fingers thought that is your mentor's daughter. too many things going on here, but I wouldn't be surprised in the next episode that he doesn't find this chick naked in his bed and he kicks her out and then she goes and cries rape to her mother. I would not be surprised if she did that, if she didn't take a picture of him naked when she took his Rolex and then shows that as proof that she slept with him. Like, yeah, he slept with me in the house, and this is a picture of him naked, and this is a picture of me next to him. She probably took like a selfie next to him because he was knocked out in that bed. And so I can see that happening. But let me know what you guys think about this. I think this episode was better than Ep.6, but I'm waiting for this thing to be over. Like, it has to end soon. I told you it's probably only 10 episodes, and so we only have probably 3 episodes left. Mary Jane hasn't turned 40 yet, so we have to wait for that storyline about her turning 40. But I just wish this show was so much better. It had so much room to grow, and then Mara killed Brock, left, and it seems like all the elements that make Mary Jane special and a great show has really disappeared with the creator leaving, and they're having new writers and producers, because this is not what you expect from season 4. This is like season 1 building character kind of stupidness. We're just going backwards. But anyway, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Share with your friends, and just let's have a discussion about what you think about these 2 episodes. Again, I'm sorry that I posted this late, but I mean, am I the only one who's just like I'm just not feeling it. I told you I'm gonna do it because I promise I'm going to finish this season. I'm gonna make it, but I'm gonna have to really push myself to be able to record these things every week on time for the next 3 weeks. So anyway, see you guys later. Bye.